Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 12 of Wolf Precision Incorporated's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. We're excited to have this episode up and running. This episode here is our first interview in which we just completed our moving target class that we teach in Swainsboro, Georgia. It is actually one of my absolute favorite classes to teach and one that's absolutely fascinating to watch shooters attend. And the really cool part about this whole setup here is that it's actually taught at a private range that was built by a gentleman by the name of Eric Allread. Now, Eric and I go back to about 2009 when he had brought his son, I believe at that point was getting ready to go off to college, come and attended our shooting school. And since then, we have taught several classes at his facility down there. And the moving target class we teach down there almost every year. So this was a really great opportunity to take some time and talk to him, ask him lots of great questions, because here's a gentleman that's so passionate about long-range shooting that he built an entire facility around it. And so the name of the facility is Cool Acre Sporting Camp. We'll give you some information on it after the podcast. And then we also have some tips and tricks that we'd like to share with you after the interview, in which we talk a little bit about some things that we've seen that maybe will help you in the field, equipment, all these little things start to come up. So stick around. I hope you enjoy the interview, and here we go. All right, so we're with Eric at Cool Acre Sporting Camp. Eric, thank you for being on the podcast as one of our very first interviews. So we're excited to have you and ask you some questions.
Good deal. We're glad you're here.
Awesome. So this is where we come down to teach the Movers Target Clinic. That's what we were talking about in the introduction. Eric had actually been through our shooting school. He brought his son up to spend some time with him. And I believe it was the very first year we held our first class.
So, I believe it was.
2009 or something like that.
Yep.
I'm going to ask Eric a series of questions here and try to dig into a little bit of his past. And I'm always interested when you talk to shooters that have been around for a while, you know, where they came from, what their history was with shooting, you know, some of the things that they've learned, because I really do think that there's a lot of valuable lessons that you can pass on to other shooters. So I guess to lead out of the gate, you have your own private range, and that's pretty unique and a legitimate private range. What really got you started into actually starting your own shooting range?
Well, as a kid, I spent a lot of time on a farm in Ohio with my grandfather, and we did a lot of shooting, all kinds of shooting. And I'll never forget, I think I was about 7. He bought me a Red Ryder BB gun. And he taught me to shoot. And I've been shooting ever since.
What possessed you to build your own private 1,000-yard range, though?
I don't know. I think I was crazy. I think I watched a movie, If You Build It, They Will Come, one too many times.
Do you have any advice for anyone who gets that bug and says, hey, I'm going to build a 1,000-yard range here? What kind of advice would you give them if they're starting to think about this?
Be careful what you wish for, but have a lot of fun. You'll never, in your wildest dreams, be able to foresee where it'll take you. When I built this thing, we scratched the ground, and literally people started coming, and everybody wanted to shoot. And they want to make that 1,000-yard shot. That seems to be like the money shot.
What year did you start working on the range? I mean, when did this really start?
Well, I bought this place in 92, and I had just gotten out of the Ranger Battalion in 86, and it took about that long for me to pick up a rifle after I got out. I started hunting again, and then we bought this place to kind of bring my customers and do some hunting, and we started doing some long-range shooting. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of grew from there.
Talk a little bit about your military career.
Well, I went in the Army in 1982. I was only in 4 years, but I went through basic, AIT, jump school, and then straight to the RIP, the Ranger and Documentary Program here in Savannah.
That is awesome.
And I spent the rest of my time in the Ranger Battalion.
So you grew up on a farm in Ohio. What was one of your favorite things when you started shooting? What's that one thing that got you hooked into getting into long range, like stepping out the distance? Where was the aha moment for you?
When I shot a protected species by my grandfather, which was a barn martin. You don't mess with the barn martins. He was on a wire probably, maybe 75 feet away with the BB gun. And I had gotten pretty good at shooting dandelions. And I got to where I could see the BB, the trajectory. And so my grandpa was gone. And I figured, hey, what the heck? I give it a shot, and I shot the thing. And it's hanging upside down on the wire. It wouldn't let go. I hit it on the first shot, and then I hear my grandfather's truck coming down the lane. And I got off 3 or 4 more shots, but I never hit him after that. I think I was sweating bullets, and my grandfather pulled up in the truck. He didn't say a word. He just went in and got his little switch and commenced to switching because he knew what happened.
And that's what got you hooked into the long range from there on out, huh?
Yep.
Oh, that is awesome.
What really, we didn't have many shooting ranges. When I was a kid, the Fish and Game Club, maybe 100 yards, it was all you had. So that's all anybody shot. Mm-hmm. That's a good long time ago too.
Yeah.
But when I got in the military, one of the first things we did when I was at the Ranger Battalion, we went to Parris Island, and we shot on their known distance courses, and because they were better than what we had here at Fort Stewart. And they actually had pits. And it was a terrible, nasty day. The wind was blowing. And the guy in the wind tower was pretty good at doping the wind, though. He told us what to dial. When I got done fired my last shot, I turned around, there was a crowd behind me. Well, I had shot a perfect score. I didn't really know I did. I mean, I knew I was hitting pretty good, but I wasn't keeping score. So I jumped up. I was just a private. So I jumped up at attention, and they all come over there and told me I did a good job. And I'll never forget the Marine. I don't know what he was, a pretty high-ranking guy there. He said, if you ever want a real job, come see me.
There we go. The history of the range here, what was it originally set up for? And over the years, what all kinds of matches have you ran here before?
We've run all kind of. Originally, we set it up, and we started shooting kind of modified bench rest. We had modified tables, and then we've shot F-class, and we shoot IBS bench rest here now. And a thing that I started is Outlaw bench rest. It's just a little different. We shoot totally different stuff. We're in the future, hopefully in 2020, we're going to be going full PRS here and bringing that online.
It seems like that's a big draw to a lot of shooters. What do you think the biggest draw to that type of shooting is right now?
For the PRS? I believe it's a fun sport. It's a very fast-paced sport. There's not a lot of downtime, but there is enough that if you go there with a buddy, you can talk to him. I mean, it's not slow and it's not fast. It's just kind of steady and it's challenging. The different ranges and different size targets. It's a real fun sport.
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe one of the fastest growing sports right now as far as
I believe it is. It's I mean, all the matches around here, they pretty much sell out 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, that is awesome. What about the bench rest and the Outlaw bench rest? So you held other matches in bench rest here before in the past?
We held the 2016 IBS Nationals here, and we hold monthly. They're not every month. We're allowed to hold 10 matches, IBS 1,000-yard, and 5 matches for the 600-yard. And we've held that here for probably 10 years. We've held IBS matches here. And that's a real fun sport also. I mean, it's bench rest shooting. It's kind of like drag racing. Bring the best you got and for group and score, And
there we go.
And you'd be surprised to be some real little groups and some real high scores.
You mentioned Outlaw bench rest.
Yeah, the Outlaw bench rest, that's kind of come about A lot of guys put their heads together, and we wanted to make something a little more simpler that didn't have quite so many rules. And it's very simple. We upped the weight for the limited class to 22 pounds, so you could bring your F-class rifle and practice, but we still shoot 2 targets, each 5 shots for group and score, and then there's an ag. If you win by ag, you can advance to the showdown. If you shoot the best group and the best score, you're going to the showdown. So, there could be 5 people in the showdown. Depending on how many relays you got, there could be even more per relay. We shoot that at 400 with gas-operated rifles. Then we shoot that at 600 and 1,000. And we do it all on the same day. So that's where it's different than a lot of stuff. The IBS is just 1,000 or 600 on the same day, where like some guys come and they'll just shoot the gas part of the Outlaw and then they can leave. They don't have to be here all day if they don't want to be.
What would be the biggest difference between for people out there that really have never shot bench rest, or what would be the biggest difference between the two? Between the two,
I think the rifles are different. The Outlaw's more for introductory, although a lot of the guys shoot really, really good. I mean, I'm not saying they don't shoot as good. They do. We've shot some very little groups in that as well. But it's more relaxed. Basically, I think it's more of an introductory class of bench rest shooting. The IBS, they're very serious. There's a lot of rules, and you need to bring the best you got if you want to win. And everybody that shoots here regularly, you can go all over the world, and I believe these guys here can hang with anybody. We got some really good shooters here.
If somebody wants to come down here and shoot or attend a match, what do you offer as far as, is it like open range days or private lessons, or do they book in advance? But if somebody wants to come down and use the range, how do they get a hold of you, and what do you normally do for people that want to come in and use it?
Okay, they can find us at Cool Acre Sporting Camp. My phone number's on there, and they can text me or call me and coordinate a time to come to the range. It's kind of by appointment. Now, we do have events. On the event page, you can look there and see when we're having matches, and naturally we don't have any open shooting during match dates or like the upcoming moving target clinic, the range is busy that weekend. But an open weekend, you just contact me and see if I'm available or another range master is available to open the range for you.
So I've got a couple questions that I want to ask Eric. The first thing I would like to ask you is, what do you think needs to change in the industry to get more young shooters involved? Because I'm only 48, and I already feel like the guys in their 30s are the youngest on the firing line. So you're a little bit older than me. You've been around shooting a little bit longer than me. Do you see the change happening? And then what do you think can be done to get the next generation shooting?
Number one, I don't see the change happening like I feel it should be. What we do here, what I've done, any junior shooter, any young shooter that's still in the house, still in school, they shoot here for free.
That is awesome.
They don't pay nothing, as long as they got an adult that's shooting. You know what I mean? And the reason I did that, I'll tell you why. When my kids were little and I wanted to go do something, it's not fair to the wife to always just leave them with them when you want to go do something. Plus, I like taking my kids with me. I like spending time with them. But if we're going to bring the younger generation up, get them into shooting, get them familiar with firearms, we got to take them with us. Got to bring them.
Yeah.
You just got to take them.
What do you think as far as do you think PRS and those type of matches are going to start drawing the younger crowd?
I hope so. What I'm fixing to do here also is start a 22 PRS series. And I think that's where we need to start with them, right there, 22s. That's the ticket.
This is a little segment that we're going to call it the Mad Minute. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you're going to give me your best answer. We're going to try to get as many of them done in about a minute as we can, all right? Your favorite caliber?
6.5.
Do you hold the wind or dial it?
Most of the time I hold.
Do you go for speed or accuracy when you're reloading?
Accuracy.
What is your most disliked caliber?
6mm.
What is your favorite discipline in shooting?
Bench rest.
Custom or factory rifle?
Custom.
No brake, muzzle brake, or suppressor?
Brake.
Favorite trigger?
Jewel.
Pull weight?
4 ounces.
Favorite brass?
Lapua.
Ammo, factor, hand loaded?
Only hand loads.
Favorite bullet for hunting?
Burger.
Favorite bullet for competition?
Burger.
Favorite factory rifle?
Savage.
And the longest shot you've ever made?
1,465 yards.
All right, so we're going to expand on the 6mm question. That one actually caught me off guard a little bit. Okay, so why not the 6mm?
The 6mm, although it is an excellent caliber and widely used, I probably, if it was an audience, I'd get a boo for that one. But it is the most finicky caliber out there. It can be in tune in the morning and out of tune in the afternoon. And I just, if you start at 6.5 and go up, they just stay in tune better across the temperature swings. But a lot of people in PRS are going to 6mm.
For the really low recoil.
Right.
I'm with you on that one. I really like the 6.5 for so many different reasons, but also just a bigger signature on target.
Well, the 6.5, and I like this. I believe I'm leaning hard to the 6.5 by 47. Although the Creedmoor is a good round, it gets a lot of flack. But the case fill, as far as hand loads on the 6.5 by 47, it just, it's easy to load for, real easy.
It is.
It's very easy.
So a new shooter could get into that caliber and not drive themselves bonkers trying to find a load for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. You're still shooting burgers for competition?
I am.
Do you do anything with the Met plate or pointing?
Well, that depends.
Okay.
The bullet will tell you if it wants pointed or not. And what I mean by that is I've got some bullets, some 130 grain 6.5 AR hybrids. Mm-hmm. Excellent bullet out of 6.5 by 47. They shoot very well just picking them out of the box. I said, well, if they shoot that good picking them out of the box, I was checking this for a buddy. I said, if I point them, they'll shoot better. So I pointed a few, and they shot really bad. So I said, So I went back in there, and I was more careful about my pointing. I'm very peculiar about my pointing. Anyway, I pointed about 4 or 5 more times, and I never could make it shoot any better, and I think it always shot worse. So I told the gentleman, I said, look here, pull them out of the box and load them. Don't even set the pointing die within 10 feet of them because they're going to shoot worse. Some bullets will point and some will not. I believe it has to do with how far the lead is up in the tip of the bullet. And those particular bullets, the lead's pretty far up in the jacket towards the point. So I think that's what it is. But now, on the other hand, I got some 230s and a 30 caliber. They love pointing. You just never know. You gotta take a small sample and try it.
I shoot all tipped bullets like the Horn of the ELDs, and then before that, the AMAX. For the audience out there that's listening, who might be asking, well, why did that question come up? I tried burgers like 15 years ago in 30 cal, and what concerned me a lot, and it wasn't just burgers, a lot of the boats at hollow points, is if you could physically look at the tips of the bullets and you would see different size hollow points. And I often wondered if that didn't play a little bit with the consistency of the BC from shot to shot. So I sort of avoided the whole thing altogether. That's where the pointing started. I've never pointed a bullet, by the way. Is that where it really started, trying to fix that?
Yes. What you're trying to do is uniform the BC. The overall length of the bullet is one of the most critical things that you'll find with the BC of the bullet. And the size of the orifice and the tip of the bullet. Mm-hmm. That plays into it, not near as much. But the overall length is a definite. What I've determined the last little bit here is I believe the bullets are the limiting factor on our group sizes at 1,000 yards. Currently, I think the barrels, you get good ones and bad ones, but a good barrel is limited by the bullets you put in it because I'm tracking the velocities out of the muzzle and at the target. And when a shot goes out of the group, it's got a different velocity, so the BC was slightly different for some reason or another. So that's what you look for. You look for something that gives you a uniform BC, and whatever method it takes to uniform that BC, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, you don't want it stringing at distance.
Right.
Yeah, so in the tactical matches years ago, what would happen at 1,000 yards, if your BCs were varying from shot to shot, it would be just like your velocity varying. You would be hitting high and low at the target or stringing up and down, and that doesn't really get you a lot of good points.
No, the further away you are, the more of a factor it is.
This is something we were talking about even back home, and I think in the last podcast, in episode number 11, I talked about, when I got into long-range shooting, it was varmint hunting, and it went back to varmint hunting as a kid and just, going out and enjoying the outdoors. But the next generation coming up through, so in Pennsylvania, when I was a kid, they sold over 1 million hunting licenses a year. And I think the Game Commission announced, and I might be wrong on this, I don't have the stats in front of me, but if I remember correctly, I thought they said that the license sales are down to 600,000 or something like that from where they used to be. And then when you go to these matches, you're not seeing the younger kids. You go to the gun range, or even like some of the meetings where they're talking about different things they want to do at the range and upcoming events. You look around the room, and the youngest person in the room is 38 years old. Yep. So I think it's a big deal trying to get the next generation out, because if we don't get them out to carry that torch, there's not going to be anybody left shooting.
No, and when that happens, they won't have to come get the guns. They'll be giving them. They'll already have them, because nobody's going to want them.
Yeah, nobody's going to have a use for it.
They won't know what to do with them, and that's what worries me about my grandchildren. My grandson is 8.5, and one's 6. I've had the 8.5 out shooting some, but I don't want to press him too soon. So maybe next year he'll start doing a little more shooting if he wants to. But, you're competing against video games and stuff that's fun. It's air conditioned. They don't have to break a sweat. So you got to make shooting fun when you take them out there. Get reactive targets, something they can see that's fun.
I think it's a really big deal, and I think a lot of people really have to pick up the torch on this one, or else it's going to be too late.
I agree, 100%.
Well, Eric, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate you taking the time to doing the podcast. If you ever get a chance to come down and see him, meet him, or check out his range, it's a great facility. But Eric, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there we go. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Eric was a gracious host, and we had lots of great food, lots of great shooting. I did want to talk a little bit about what we've learned from the previous movers class. So the movers class just finished a couple of days ago. We're back home here working away. And I just thought there were some really good observations to maybe pass along, not only if you intend on taking a movers class, but just in general precision shooting as a whole. The first thing that I want to touch base on is the timing of your shot. When you're shooting, having the gun go off on demand, or when you want it to go off, is really important. When you're shooting movers, it's detrimental. So you can't do that squeeze, 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 bang, and the gun surprise you technique. And you can't jump the shot. So if you break the trigger early, get anxious, you're going to shoot in front of the target. If you do the squeeze, or you're ever so delayed on breaking the trigger, then you'll be behind the target. Having the gun go off when you intend it to go off is really super critical. And so when I practice shooting, I want the gun to go off exactly when I want it to, by a straight, clean pull of the trigger. And I'll often say now in my head when the trigger should fall. And I dry fire a lot and practice this for this particular reason. And it doesn't really just apply to movers, but it really does apply to shooting in general. The rifle should go off when you intend it to go off. You get trigger pull weight. You've got lots of manufacturers out there, so there's a whole nother topic that we could talk about when it comes to triggers. But I will tell you that having a very consistent trigger is really, really important. When I put a trigger into a rifle, I sometimes am doing a dance, and a customer might ask, well, hey, I want this trigger to be right at 2 pounds. And I'll get close to that 2 pound mark, but more important than trigger pull weight is consistency. And so let's just say I get that trigger set right at 2 pounds, and it's just breaking at 1.9 to 2.1, 1.9. I'm testing it with a gauge. I'm not really happy with that. So I might play with that a little bit more to 2.1 pounds or 1.9 pounds to see if I can't get some more consistency in the pull weight or breaking of the trigger. So what I'm looking for is a trigger that breaks at 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 2.1, 2 pounds, 2 pounds. That is a really good trigger. And then you get into pull weight. I really don't like super light triggers. I just feel it leaves you vulnerable to making a mistake or having an AD on the firing line, especially with the way that we move and shoot. I don't know if you really get any extra points from the, like a 4-ounce trigger that Eric was talking about. Now, bench rest and those types of competitions are different. And I absolutely get, why that they have such light triggers. But they're also setting in a very heavy rifle, which is setting on a very heavy mechanical rest. And so the rifle just slides back and forth. There's a totally different discipline. I think you're finding these really super light triggers bleeding their way into field shooting or positional shooting. And to me, that makes me a little cautious. Just a personal point of view, not criticizing anybody for their trigger pull weight. You have to, live with the risk, and you have to accept it for the pull weight that you intend to have. So I thought the consistency of the pull weight and the timing of the shot was really critical, maybe to talk a little bit more about on the podcast. And equipment. For me, field shooting sometimes requires that I shoot up and downhill a little bit. And I love the Harris bipod for accuracy. I think, with how solid it mounts to the rifle and the fact that it doesn't move and wiggle around a little bit, pretty important. But having something that is fieldable, like the Atlas, that has the ability to fold the legs forward, to drop the front of the rifle down, or to extend the legs and have a little bit more room to go up in elevation on the front of the rifle. I think for field use, there's a place for that. And so we had a couple issues with, just not being able to get the rifle set up properly, shooting prone on sight in days. So we open the range up usually the Friday before from 1 to 4:30 for an opportunity to come in and test your equipment, check your dope, chronograph, zero. All of these rifles have been shipped or driven here, and gets everybody all settled in, that everything's squared away with the rifles before we start into actual training. And so you'll see little things like this pop up here and there. So I just want to throw it out there. I really like the Harris bipod for precision shooting. I actually carry 2 different heights, 6 to 9 and the 9 to 13 in matches. And I always use the swivel because I want to level the gun up. I really do like the Atlas for field shooting. I think you give up ever so slightly that bench rest accuracy from there's a little bit of movement with the Atlas when you shoot. But I think the trade-off for the expediency in the field and the multi-use that you can use it for is definitely worth it. So I do want to shout out again to Eric Allread at Cool Acre Sporting Camp. He was a gracious host. If you would like to join us there next year, we usually hold this Movers Target class at the last weekend of March. It's nice weather down there. It's warm. So for us up in the Northeast, we get a chance to get out of the Arctic Circle for a couple of days and enjoy some spring-like weather and get lots of great shooting. Eric's website is coolacresportingcamp.com. You can look up his website. You can give him a call. It is one of the very few private shooting ranges, really in the country. And so this gentleman is so passionate about this sport that he went and spent, decades building and maintaining and setting up this beautiful range for folks to come in and enjoy. So support them, drop in, give them a call, attend a match. These are really important. There's not that many of them around. So Eric, thank you for taking the time to join us on the podcast, as well as being such a gracious host and allowing us to come down there and shoot the movers. Now, we will have a video coming up very shortly. We'll announce it in a little newsletter. I'm working on it as we speak. We took a drone down with us, and we took some other video equipment. What was really cool is we shoot movers old school, and what I mean is we have people in pits moving the targets. And you'll get a really cool opportunity to see, how this has been done and trained for many, many years. It is a fantastic video. I can't wait for you all to check it out. So just stay tuned. We'll send it out in a newsletter. We'll probably put it up on maybe our YouTube channel or something like that. We should have it ready here in a couple of days. And thank you to all of you who actually took the effort to come down to Swainsboro, Georgia, and attend the school. Eric had commented that it was one of the best classes we ever had, and such a great group of people. I know myself, I really enjoyed spending a lot of time with you guys. So my name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.